Hello. Sorry for
Hello, how
bothering
are
you.
you? Oh, no worries. I apologize for the time zone mix up. I appreciate
No
you for coming out
worries.
and hanging with us today, though.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Cool, cool. So the folks that are in here, I told them that you are the person to ask about bug bounty things. But I think what I'm interested in knowing on this Bring a Hacker to Work day is how did you get to where you're at?
That's a very loaded question. How did I get to where I am? Well, I'll give you a background of mine a little bit. Maybe that would help a little. So I moved here when I was a kid, at the age of 15. Spoke no English. Had not a lot of friends because I just moved to a brand new country. And I had a lot of time on my hands. So I had to learn English. I was going to school. I was going to high school to learn English. And I had a lot of free time. And I really wanted to learn hacking. And being from a country where they don't speak English, when you start learning English, you realize how many resources are out there that you have access to now. Because everything is in English. Every forum you go to, every Stack Overflow question you read, every book you read on hacking or security, it's all in English. Like you learn a lot. So that was my way of learning a lot. But then I went to college and I always loved hacking. So I would always go to these like script sites. I think it was like hotscripts.com or something like that. You would go in there and then you could download these the scripts in like PHP, ASP.NET, whatever language. You would install them and then you can, your local machine and you could play with them. They were free. I would find vulnerabilities in those as a kid just because I wanted to learn more. Not so much because there was anything else in it. It was just like I want to do this because it was a cool thing that I've seen people do. It would report it to like websites like Security Focus and Millwarm and like a bunch of other ones. And then I wanted to be a part of that group. And when I went to college, I didn't have an intention to really graduate with a the computer science degree. Software engineering wasn't for me. It still isn't for me. I write horrible code. I'm horrible at it. I went to I took a lot of cybersecurity courses in college. They were really outdated. It wasn't even Kali Linux. It was like Backtrack. That's how old it was. How outdated it was, not even how old. And through that program, I became friends with the professor, who was a brand new professor at our college. And he realized I have some experience in hacking. And that's around the time when I was just about to hear about, I knew what bug bounties were, but I wasn't really sure of it. He told me to go to this like seminar thing they're doing. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. Like, I'll check it out. At the seminar, it was mostly for like the feds. It was mostly like government sector, the agencies, anything that federally, like the banks were there and that sort of stuff. They were recruiting for people that were interested in cybersecurity. There was a bunch of FBI agents there, and they were all always talking about like they were always like talking about hacking. And I approached one of them and I told them like, hey, I understand these things, but I don't think someone's gonna want to hire me. I'm a nobody. I don't have an experience. I've never done it professionally. Like, what do I do? He's like, go look up bug bounties. Like, oh, I've heard of this thing. Like, what is this bug bounty thing? And he sent me, he's like, just you're a hacker, go Google it and you figure it out. And then I came across Yahoo, which was one of the first programs to do a bug bounty program. Like Google was doing it, Facebook was doing it, and Yahoo was one of the first ones. And then I started hacking on Yahoo, and then they went over to HackerOne. This is before I was employed at HackerOne. I was like, oh crap, like there is a company that does these things now. And I started hacking with them heavily. And then one day, I'll never forget this day. I found a bunch of bugs on Yahoo. It was like three really good bugs that I got on Yahoo. I disclosed them years before, but they're not on my blog anymore. They were like worth $3,000 a piece. I get paid $3,000 times three on like a Tuesday afternoon, and like I am shaking in my, I have a really small apartment. Like it was the size of this room maybe, and I can like this was my entire living room, a smaller bedroom than this, and a kitchen, like super tiny apartment, from like the 1940s. That's how old it was. And I'm sitting there like on some couches I found on Craigslist. I'm just like shaking with how much money's in my bank. $9,000 when you're in college at 24 without a job. It's a lot of money. Um, and that was kind of what I had the light bulb switch going off in my head. And I was like, okay, if I can make $9,000 as a nobody kid, like I've never done it professionally, what else can I do? How much more can I make? And I did a lot of it, but it was very unhealthy the way I did it. I would wake up at 7, go on my computer. I would skip class. I would go to the campus. I never forget the first week of class, I couldn't find its classroom. I was like, well, can't find this classroom. It's not meant to be. I would go to the library, open up my laptop and hack. I would go to class, act like I'm taking notes. Even in like math class, I would act like I'm taking notes, but I was hacking. And then come home, same thing to like 11 midnight, and then go to bed and repeat. I did it for a good year. It was very unhealthy. I don't recommend it. Don't do it. It's not good. But that was my way of like making up for all the time that I didn't do it.
So were you able to pass your classes that year?
Um, I went on probation. Um, I went on probation. I got a very nice letter from the school. That said I'm going on probation. If I don't get it together, they're gonna kick me out. And then I was just like, okay, how do I make this work? So I started going to classes on Mondays and Friday, like the first day of the week and the last day of the week. So I just like understand what's going on in the class, like the classes that I could learn on my own, like math, physics, like programming languages. And then I'll go on YouTube and just Google those topics for that week. So I would do them on my free time. My break from hacking was doing homework and learning whatever, Calc 2 was teaching us. I would go on YouTube and because I didn't understand how the teachers was, they were teaching us. And I wanted to learn on my own anyways. It took me less time and then I ended up graduating because I wanted to just get out. I was a year away and I really wanted to get out. So I made it work.
So would you say that you learned the things that have gotten you to the where you're at today because of the fact that you are self-taught, or did you think that you learned what you needed from the school itself? It sounds like Google has been your professor for the past however long.
I have a really weird take on school. I'm if you watch Gabe, you have like the one thing that I agree with him. I don't like this dude, but the one thing that I agree with him is like, if your parents are paying for your school, just shut up and go to school. Like, go do it. Like, someone else is paying for your bills. Like, you have a backup plan. You don't know what you want to do with your life. Like, go to school. For me it was kind of similar situation. My family really wanted me to finish school, and I was just like, I don't need school, but do you really want me to go and waste my 4 years? It took me 6 years to graduate, 6.5 years actually, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And computer science was like I would go between computer and other degrees a bunch of times. I don't think something like computer science, you even need a degree. They teach you the basics, don't get me wrong. If you go to a really good school, good for you, that's even better. My school was garbage. To this day, I would tell our facility, your school is garbage, because they were teaching us, everything was just Java. Nothing else was taught. They didn't teach us anything with Python, barely anything other than everything was just Java enterprise focused. And I didn't want that. I wanted to learn about web dev. I wanted to learn about security. So I learned a lot of it with books. I got shut down for a lot of job interviews. I couldn't get past the first technical interview. Like a lot of them, I interviewed with Yelp, Uber, Verizon Media, Yahoo, you name it. I interviewed with them. I kept getting shut down because I didn't know enough. So I just started reading on books and like whatever questions I could struggle with on the interview. Like, how do you fix, for example, how do you fix a SQL injection? Well, just sanitize it. No, I need more details than that. Okay, get a book. How do go on Google? How do I fix? What's the best way to fix SQL injection? How do you build secure application? And read books that were about it, just so I can understand the defensive side of things, and then also learn. Okay, what is SQL injection really? Like, how do I do it? Because when you understand how to fix it, you also understand what's causing it and how to look for it. So I did a lot of those, a lot of Googling, a lot of like YouTube, a lot of books, a lot of like articles that are already out there. You know, back when I was doing bug bounties, there was only a handful of us writing tutorials and write-ups. Now you see all these like weird bug bounty tips coming out every day. Everybody likes a blog post. So there's a lot of more resources nowadays than it was back then. It was DVWA and Metasploitable were the only two things that we had, and now there's so many more of them.
So you said that you're not doing bug bounty anymore. What would you consider like your, I guess, area of expertise? What kind of stuff are you doing these days? I know you're the head of hacker education at HackerOne. What does that involve?
So I still try to do bug bounties. It's just I don't have the time. I spread myself too thin when I got into creating content. I still do the content thing. Bug bounties were a hobby that was, paying for a lot of my fun stuff. Now I do content, but I'm doing content on bug bounty, the one thing that, I was good at, but I don't get to do it as much, unfortunately, because of time. And then work has also been, I have more responsibilities at work. I'm no longer an intern or a junior position anymore. I have to move projects forward with HackerOne. So I dabble in bug bounties once in a while. I've done some Apple, I've done some of Red Bull. If a program is fun and I want to just get my name in there, I'll go and do it. I want to always try. That's my only way I could stay close to the community. I can't, teach and be influential in a area that I'm not doing or no participating anymore, practicing it anymore. I do a lot of pen testing more now, just because um, it's different when you do pen tests. You learn more about business and what the companies expect and that sort of stuff. So I'm doing a lot of pen testing, both from HackerOne and my own. Um, and I do the hacker education stuff. So hacker education and HackerOne, it's a very broad term. I work with partnerships. We work with different organizations to become partners and how that would look for our community. I create content for our company. So I work with different content creators or hackers to come up with the content. So I curate the content. So, hey, we want to do iOS hacking, which was our latest release. We found Dawn Isabel, great hacker. We work with her to create content for iOS hacking. We wanted to do XSS. We did it with Zshano. We created labs and that sort of stuff. And then I also work on all of our CTFs. So that means like every CTF that comes out of Hacker 101 or one of our missions that are very, very well known in the community, we work with Adam. So I'm involved with a lot of those. Everything that it involves teaching our community something new or engaging them in a teaching way. Our conference at ActivityCon, I organize and plan that every year as well. So anything that could be educational or engaging as far as hacking goes to teach people, I get involved with.
So have you had to have to get in these like certifications, or what are your thoughts about the need for certifications? I feel like in bug bounties that you maybe not wouldn't need them, but what are your thoughts?
So it depends on your end goal, what it is that you want to do in your career, in your life. If your goal is to get a job, then they might help you. If your goal is to get a job, a certificate would get you past the HR, it would give you it would look better on paper. But for bug bounty hunting specifically, I think it's a waste of money if you're spending, not that the certificates aren't worth it. I even tell people not to take my course. I have a Udemy course that I tell people not to take it. I just have it out there because people keep bugging me about it. You can learn everything about bug bounty hunting and web hacking for free online today. You can go do the Burb Suite Portswigger Labs. You can do Hacker 101. You can do, if you want to pay money, that's a different story. You want something formal, you can take a Udemy course. You can do Pen Tester Lab. You can do Try Hack Me and that sort of stuff. But I tell people you don't need anything for bug bounty hunting. You just need to have patience, be consistent, and be persistent to want to put in the time and not give up within the first week. I didn't find anything for 3 months, but I still looked at my screen for 6 to 8 hours a day after school. I didn't stop. And people want, I think it's a millennial thing that they want instant gratification. We just want it right away. It has to happen right away. It's not going to. But there are some good offensive security certificates that will give you the offensive hacking mentality.
Yeah, I think that when we actually got a lot of copies of your course when you put it out on bug bounty. So and I know a lot of folks, when we started doing our Bring a Hacker to Work days, they said, hey, you definitely need to get this guy in here to come talk to you. So I was very excited that you were able to come out here. So if someone wanted to, get started in bug bounty or get started, how would you recommend that they get started? It sounds like they don't need to go to school as far as you're concerned. They don't need to get certifications. What's the best way to just get your foot to the ground and get started making money?
So the one thing is I make this super easy. If you type in, I just checked it to make sure this still works. If you type in bug bounty resources onto Google, the first thing belongs to me. It's a hacking resource that I put together. I update it every few months. There's a lot of resources in there. There's the basics, there's tools, there's talks, there's vuln types, mobile hacking, smart contracts, you name it, certifications. Everything you need is in there almost. Check it out. It's I'll try and link it in the chat too right now. There it is. If you ever forget, just type in bug bounty resources. It comes up immediately. But to get started, I would say, I'm not saying don't get certificates. It's just, it's going to cost you money. That money could go to something better. If you're taking time to do bug hunting, that money could cover your bills, your rent for a month or two. But you can read books that are like $30, $40. The Web Application Hacker's Handbook. It's really, really, it's outdated, but it's really good to read. Real World Bug Hunting by Peter Yaworski. It's a green cover book. Absolutely amazing. Vicky Lee is putting out a book called The Bug Bounty Boot Camp. I've gotten a copy of some of the um, chapters. It's fairly well written. A lot of that bug bounty hunters have read it. Agree, it's a really, really good book. What else? The Hacker Playbook. RTFM is a good one. Read the freaking manual. Um, there are a ton of books out there. Depends on what you want to learn, but those are the ones that I would recommend for bug bounty hunting. And also, there's a lot of good articles on Portswigger's Websec Academy. Who else? Oh, Vicky herself on her website, vickylee.medium, I think is her website. She has a lot of good articles in there. There's all this, honestly, there isn't a shortage of resources anymore. You just had to put in the time. And also go and like stop being scared. Like stop being afraid of rejection. Stop being afraid that you're not gonna find any bugs. And put in the time to go hack on companies like GM, DoD, Ford that have giant infrastructures of sites, and you can definitely find bugs on there.
Are there any try hack me equivalent programs for bug bounty? Are there any like walkthrough?
Yeah, Portswigger is very similar to that. Hacker 101 is very similar to this. I think there's one called bughunter.com. Oh, ctfchallenge.co.uk. Adam, he's very good at it, and they're all based on real world bugs. It's called ctfchallenge.co.uk. I'm trying to see if I can find more on my phone really quick. I think those are the majority of the good ones that I would recommend.
So you mentioned that you are doing more in the realm of penetration testing these days. Would you say that they're the same skills that you need for bug bounty are the same ones that you are using for your penetration testing?
If I do a lot of web pen testing in that sense, yes, absolutely. With web hacking, a lot of the experience and like knowledge is the same. And it's just a different thing because with pen testing, you don't have to show a lot of impact. You have to just show there is something there in theory, or it could be bad or whatever it is. But with bug hunting, it's the complete opposite. You have to show impact. You have to show there's something there with a working proof of concept. But these skills are very, very transferable.
Yeah, I think for me that's been the hardest part of transitioning into pen testing. The fact that it's not just enough to be able to identify the vulnerabilities, but you have to be able to exploit them, and then also, say how you would, recommend to fix them. I think that's probably been the biggest, the hardest transition for me moving into this area, just because it's not just identifying or being able to say, hey, this bug exists. Right. You have to take it a step further and be able to exploit it, and then also be able to say how you would fix it in order to be able to report it, basically.
Yeah, with it's a very similar world, like skill set wise and like knowledge wise, it's really the same. It's just the details change a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you're doing web pen tests and web hacking, you're looking for similar things. Your end goal is to find bugs. Just like the quality that you can the quality is different when it comes down to bug bounty. You have to do more in-depth stuff and more vulns that are impactful for bug bounty hunting.
And you mentioned capture the flag. Do you still play? And what platforms would you recommend to someone who is getting started? I know that there's some that are very like event specific that pop up here and now and again. But do you know any of ones that people can do like on a day-to-day basis, like if they wanted to, level up their skills?
There's a bunch. I think RootMe is one of the really good ones. I do a lot of the try hack me stuff. They're fun to learn. The way they teach you stuff is really, really interesting. If you're trying to specifically do bug bounty hunting, Hacker 101 also gives you private invitations for every few points that you get. So you get a private invite. Any conference, any local conference CTF that can get your hands on, your local B-sides as a CTF, those are great. Those are great because it's like a Jeopardy style with a bunch of different topics. And that gives you an idea of like what you're good at. So when I did The first time I ever did a CTF was a B-side San Francisco CTF, like a formal one, and we ended up winning was with a big ass group, but it was we all figured out the things that we liked. I didn't even like doing the web CTFs because it was just too weird. I enjoyed doing all the lockpicking stuff. That was like, oh my god, I like doing this stuff. I never enjoyed doing it in the past until today. I learned that it's actually really fun. Those are really a good way to learn what you want to be good at, especially or what you're gonna be passionate about. It's hard to find like, oh, I want to be I want to be in infosec. I just don't know what I want to do yet. That's a really good place to figure that out. But they also have some really good challenges. Like, they make you think outside the box. It's based on real voles and that kind of stuff. What else? I think those are it.
So do you guys at HackerOne, do you guys hire entry level people? And how would you suggest that people stand out, make themselves be able to stand out if they're looking for a job and they're more entry level?
So HackerOne does entry level to a certain degree. It all depends for their position, because we have a lot of technical positions, but also non-technical ones. For our entry level, this is not me saying as a HackerOne employee, please don't quote me, but I think our entry level to like the technical work that we have for security is either going on our security team, which is a little bit, it's not too entry level, but we have some, lower entry level positions sometimes. But also our triage team. If you understand web application hacking very, very good, and you understand CVSS score, and you have good communication skills, that is your good way to getting in with the triage team, because that also could move you up to different positions. But it's a tough interview. You have to really be comfortable with bug hunting and identifying and understanding web vulnerabilities.
And with those books that you suggested, the web application handbook and some of the other ones, would those do you think help prepare you to be able to do that interview?
Yeah, but nothing's gonna help prepare you for an interview better than the hands-on aspects of doing bug hunting on your own. When you know how to report vulnerabilities, when you know how to communicate that for them to be able to reproduce your bug, you have done 90% of the job already. You're just in the receiving end now.
So do you think that it's possible to lead a bug bounty career, as an independent, not actually employed by somebody, just, basically just going to the different sites and seeing what you can do?
I don't want to say yes and sell you a dream, just because it's becoming like streaming at this point. Everybody wants to become a streamer. If everyone's on Twitch with one viewer, but if you stand out and you put in the work, yes, like it's doable. We've had people that came, 2 years ago, and we have Mayonnaise, for example, one of the hackers. He showed up 2 years ago in 2019, and he has made $1 million. I don't know how he's done it, but he's done it. He's put in a lot of efforts and time. So is it doable? Yes, but if you have a lot of responsibilities, you're my age. He's older than I am. I'm 30. He's older than I am, and he's done it. He probably, had a runway or some sort of like savings or whatever to, make this work. But it all comes down to your lifestyle, what you're willing to put in. You get what you put in with bug bounty hunting. You can't, if you're going to put an hour a day, you're not going to get much. But if you're going to put a few hours a day and grind and figure things out and learn, then it's going to pay out. If you're looking for, good vulnerabilities, server side stuff, it's going to pay off.
All right, so we will open it up to questions from the squad. What do you guys have for our guests here? So you mentioned content creators. I know that you produce things on Twitch and on other content platforms. Who are the people that you watch that you feel like are bringing good content that would help people?
Security wise, I don't watch a lot of content anymore. Just YouTube has been a time suck for me. There are some really good content creators. I like some of Stokes' stuff. He's very inspiring. So if you're looking for inspiration, he's a really good place to go to. Katie, Insider PhD, puts out some content. She's very, very new. I think she's still at a very junior level, but she brings on a lot of lot of experience, a good experience. Farah is one that I've been very, very impressed by. Farah Hawa is her name, Hawa. I think that's how you spell her name, but Farahhawa. And she's put out some really good content also as well. Live Overflow is good. Recon Less is good. I also watch like random stuff like Casey Neistat and like Matt Davila and that kind of stuff too.
Risha, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So the question is it's mainly a career question. So my dream job is to become a security analyst, but the issue I have is that I don't really have work experience as a security analyst, and I would like to get an entry-level role as a security analyst. I will be getting a master's in cybersecurity, and I'm really struggling to figure out how to break into the security field and become a security analyst. And I'm wondering what are the best ways to get work experience in order to show the employer that I would be able to add value to the organization.
For security analysts specifically, I don't have a lot of experience. I've never done any role in specific to that. But with a lot of the resumes that I've seen, that's one of the roles that I've seen a lot of certificates coming in. And it could be anywhere from, basic security certificates all the way to like OSCP, OSWE. If you have the money and the time to do an OSCP, it would look great on your resume for security analysts. And honestly, just applying to just jobs. For my first Nahamsec job, I applied for maybe hundreds of them until I got one that finally took me in. It's going to take some time, but for security analysts, unfortunately, I can't really give you any advice on like getting experience on hands-on. But as far as learning like cybersecurity and putting accomplishments on there, there are places like TryHack that give you certificates of things you have finished, but nothing's going to look as good as a OSCP on your resume for a security analyst, because a lot of those things would be very helpful to you as far as I understand.
So you started at BugCrowd, and I think you're doing HackerOne now. Like, would you say that these are similar type programs, or I'm not necessarily speaking as a HackerOne employee, but what would you say as far as like the difference between the different platforms out here for bug bounties?
So both of them do similar things, just the approach is a little bit different. It's like Uber and Lyft, Airbnb, like Verbo, the same concept. It's just their approach is different. The community is shared. The people that do these things share. There's different customers on there. They're all different. It's just the culture is different. I have a lot of respect for people at BugCrowd with Coding Go, Casey, and everybody out there. But yeah, they both have the same thing. If you're gonna do one or the other, it doesn't make a difference. I stuck to HackerOne just because they're my employer, and it's just easier. It's all in one for me. But I also go on hack on BugCrowd once in a while. Same thing with Integrity, Zerocopter, and all the other ones. If they let me in, I've always been willing to hack on their websites.
All right, so we had a question. When doing bug bounty and you found a vulnerability that involves a remote code execution, do you have to execute remote code on a live target as proof of concept?
Yeah, that remote code execution could be just sending a curl command. You don't have to dump like user data to prove impact, but showing that you could, curl your own website, or you can get a, who am I output or an ID output, things that are not, going to harm the server or the users. But yes, absolutely. You might want to show that there is actual code execution on this thing.
So did you there was a lot of, findings that you thought were legitimate, but then whoever you were reporting them to didn't feel the same way? Did you have a lot of, rejection or, no finding type of results?
I still do. I still have days that I have no findings. But when I see a lot of people that say it's rejection, is they're either not communicating what the vulnerability is, or they fail to provide a proof of concept. If you're reporting best practices, missing headers, those kinds of things, obviously you're not going to get paid for them, because that's not what bug bounties are for. But yeah, if my entire first couple of months was rejection, because I didn't understand how it works. And I realized, okay, they want an XSS where I can actually exploit against the other user. So the thing that I tell everybody when it's like, well, how do I know it's a good bug or not? Just ask yourself, so what? What can I do to impact the user or the company's infrastructure? How is that? What's the impact on the users? Can you show that through your proof of concept and explain it to the other company? If you can, then there's probably nothing there. Just move on.
I have a question for you. So with bug bounty, like when you're infiltrating a system, say you find something, but you don't have permission to do that, and you go in and you try to explain to a company that, hey, I found this exploitable vulnerability. How do you handle that situation? Like, are you held accountable for illegal activity, or like, how does that work?
So the companies are very clear on what's in scope and what's not in scope. They tell you everything that you should hack on and everything that you shouldn't hack on. There's been times when I've, been in that situation, but it depends on the approach. It's you go in there and you demand, their help and you demand them to pay you, they're not going to be nice. But if you go in there and say, hey, I saw you guys have a bug bounty program, I found this thing, then I realized, I was hacking on this website that's in your scope, but then I somehow ended up on this one. It's owned by you guys. It's not in scope, but I found this really cool bug. I thought you guys should fix it anyways. They're not going to come after you. They're not in the business of like coming after people. They want you to help them. They want to work with hackers. So if you have a bug bounty program, chances are they want to work with you. You just have to be very respectful of saying, hey, it was an accident. I wanted to just be responsible and disclose that there's a bug here and I want you guys to fix it. And they're not going to be mad at you for it. If anything, I'd be grateful that you report it to them. And sometimes they pay you for it. Sometimes they go, sorry, it's out of scope. We're not going to pay you for it. I haven't had someone go out, accidentally go out of scope and approach it with respect and without demanding money or anything like that. And then something bad happen. I've never seen that, knock on wood. So it just comes down to your communication and how far you have taken the bug. If you see a bug, report it and they'll be nice to you, more than likely. I've never had that experience of not, having someone work with me without, they're not going to drop the word legal on you unless you did really something really, really bad.
Have you ever, I guess, in your early days when you're just, I guess, exploring, have you ever accidentally or maybe purposely, you found something, but you weren't part of any formal investigation? You know what I mean? Like,
there's been plenty of times I've gone out of scope on accident because you get carried away. You're looking at this application, you're clicking around, you click, and then next thing you know, you're out of scope. That's happened plenty of times, but it's just, I've gone in there with honesty and I was like, hey, it was honest mistake. I didn't do anything bad. Sorry for going out of scope. Here's the bug. I should fix it anyways. Yeah. And a lot of times they paid me for it. I'm not promoting that you should go and do that. They paid me less. They're like, hey, well, we thought it was a good bug and we think you should be compensated. Here's, $100, $200. Great. But there's a difference between going out of scope on a program that has a bug bounty program or hacking on a company that doesn't ask you to hack on them. Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like working with a bank. They ask you to test their physical security. They tell you, hey, break into our bank. You can't go to the next door bank and do the same thing just because this one offered you, right? It's the same concept. It's just you don't want to push it. At the end of the day, they have to protect their customers. They have to protect their their company, their infrastructure. But they're there to work with hackers.
What would you say is the cost of building your own lab to do all these, to execute exploitables in a lab type setting? What would you say the average cost is nowadays to build that for yourself?
It depends. There's two ways you can do it. One is you can build these labs in the cloud. Like you can get a VPS for $5 a month and then access that from your tablet, from your iPad if you really wanted to. So it's not that expensive, but honestly, you get a cheap laptop and if you just want to do the labs, you get a decent laptop that you can run Chrome on and Burp Suite on and maybe Zap Proxy, whatever tools you want to use. Say 1,000, and then you can deploy. So that's what I would do. I would deploy all of these labs besides Metasploitable because the ones that aren't an image, like DVWA, Juice Shop, You know, these fake apps that you can hack on. You can download the source and deploy them on your own, which is super easy on a cloud server. But also, like, there's a thing with try hacking that they have these things. Like, there's a DVW on there, the juice shop on there you can play. You don't even have to deploy them on your own. So it's not that expensive. Or like if you go and do Portswigger, they're all on their own website. You don't have to deploy anything. You just have to do it on their site. You don't need a fancy setup. My first laptop was a Toshiba laptop with like 8 gigs of RAM. I think like i5 was back then what I had, and it was like whatever laptop I could get my hands on. It had some good beef in it, so I can have some virtual machines if I really need to deploy some stuff. But it wasn't anything fancy. I wasn't even a MacBook Pro. I didn't get a MacBook Pro till like the year at the end of the college, and the first one I got was like a old, I still have it. It was like 20 pounds, one of those old ones. That I bought used. And then I was like, okay, now if I make some money, the first thing I want to buy is a laptop, because now this is serious. I want a good rig. And that's how it all started for me. So you don't need anything fancy. You can just get a decent laptop and work on it. I know people that are doing it from their phones, from their Android devices, from Android tablets at this point. I don't know how they do it, but I don't recommend, but I know people that are making it work.
So someone asked, when being hired by a company for bug bounty, do they outline the attack surface or free game?
Here, let me show you how it looks, actually. Just make it easier. How do I share? Can you give me access to share my screen by any chance?
Go ahead.
So this is the repo that I was telling you all about. If you want some stuff to look at, but let's do this. Go to HackerOne. So first of all, this thing I'm going to show you, Hacktivity, is the best thing you can ever get your hands on. It's all the vulns that have been already disclosed. You can read them. You can watch the videos. If there's a video, you can understand how it all worked. Really, really good. I would recommend it. So let's say we wanted to look at, I don't know, Twitter. So I tell you how much they pay: $20,000 if you find a core Twitter command execution, $12,000 if it's unrestricted access to data, whatever, right? Report eligibility, what you have to do. What's out of scope? These are the things that are not available. Like, they don't care. Form missing CSRF, logout CSRF, SPF missing, social engineering, bypass of viewer malediction, all that stuff. Right here is their scope. This is everything that you can hack on. So star dot means everything behind twitter.com. So if you type in twitter.com into Google, everything that comes up here you can hack on. Like, it could be any of the domains that it's under Twitter. Vine, which isn't a thing anymore really, Periscope, GNIP, all that stuff. But right here also it says what's ineligible, like what's not in scope. They're not going to pay. They're going to take bugs from you here, but they're not going to pay you for it. It's not something that's going to get paid for. But down here it's out of scope, status.twitter.com. That's something that's out of scope that you cannot hack on. Let's see another one, just to show another one. Let's do Uber. Same thing. If you go look through their everything, they tell you what the ground rules are, table of contents, how to be eligible to participate, they even tell you how to exploit for SSRF. Like, if you find SSRF, this is how you exploit it with them. But all the way down here again, like, there's this out of scope stuff. Fraud is no longer in scope. These companies are in blackout, so everything that is acquired by them, they're usually in scope, but these ones are in a blackout period. What else? If you go down here, they tell you what's out of scope. So Uber is a program that says, hey, everything that we own is in scope, but they tell you specifically, please do not hack on these companies because they're acquired by us, but we don't want them right now. And please don't go after all these domains because it's either a third party, we don't own it, or we don't want you to touch it. So they're very, very clear on what you can hack on and what you can't.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Are you aware of any bug bounty programs that are specifically network focused as opposed to web?
Everything I know is usually web. Like, most of them are web, mobile, API, IoT. They may give you like a CIDR to hack on, but it's about it. Like, it's mostly bug bounties. It's just outside getting in. So far, no, not that I know of.
Brandon, that means you need to make it. All right. Any other questions? Our guest has a hard stop at 3 p.m.
I saw someone said, how is your day structured now? Like, what is your day to day? I wake up at 7. If I do wake up at 7, actually, and not like snooze the alarm a million times, I go to the gym and then I try to be on my desk by like 9:15. So, use an hour or two to do some stuff for myself, like work out, make breakfast, hang out with my dog, whatever it is. I work 9 to 5. I try to take an hour for lunch. Sometimes I do take a nap during that 1 hour. I work from home, so it's easy. I close my eyes for 30 minutes and then I wake up grumpy and tired and go back to work. And then around 4:30, 5 o'clock is when I'm usually off. But, some days it's a lot longer. It's a lot harder for work. And then I take an hour. So if I didn't go to the gym in the morning, I'll go afternoon at 5. And then I'll make some dinner and then work on something. If I'm not playing video games, then I'll work on some like research, do some pen tests. But around like 9:30, if I work from like 5:30 to around 8:39, then I'll play some video games just so I can disconnect or watch some TV or something like that. And then I work for cycles of 7 to 10 weeks until I feel like I'm really about to lose my crap and not want to be at my desk anymore and I'm getting burnt out. Then I take a vacation. I go somewhere by the beach, by the water, even if it's for the day. Go somewhere out of town where I can stay away from my computer and stay away from this room because I'm in here like 12 hours a day. So I try to do something like that. And then when when I have harder projects, when I've been working on something really, really big, then I'll take a few weeks off and go on like a real vacation and do something fun.
Are you going to Hacker Summer Camp?
I will be there. Yes. I'll be there Thursday through Sunday. I'll be at Red Team Village and I'll be doing a keynote for Recon Village this year as well.
All right. Any other questions? All right. It looks like I don't see anything in there, but I want to thank you for coming out to our Bring a Hacker to Work Day and spending your day with us. I apologize again for the time zone mix up, but I thank you for making it in here to hang out with us. I really appreciate you.
Of course. And if anything comes up and if there's questions, I try to be good at answering my DMs, but it all comes down to like what questions are. If you send me a real question without just saying, hey, bro, or hey, can I ask a question? Because I get so many of those. If you send me a question, I'll be more than happy to answer it. So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and all social media. It's under Nahamsec for almost any social media that you can think of.
All right, great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Thanks you for having me again, and y'all have a good day.